Good morning, all of you. I hope you all must be doing the assignments being sent to you daily very religiously. Today I am going to discuss the assignment that was sent to you on 26th of March. By now, you all must have completed it. I would like all of you to maintain separate notebook for this purpose. Now let's begin with the discussion. We begin with question number 1. Why was France afraid to go to school that day? France was late for the school and was scared of Mr. Hammer's reprimand. Moreover, he had not prepared for the test based on participles and feared punishment. So, both the reasons, that is, being late for school and another one that he had not prepared for the test, really made him scared of going to school that day. Question number 2. What temptations did France overcome to proceed to school? Franz was really reluctant to go to school that day. He felt tempted to spend the day outdoor and enjoy the warmth and brightness of nature. He was also attracted towards the sight of chirping birds. Besides, he was also fascinated by the drill being performed by the Prussian soldiers. But still, he managed to overcome all these temptations and finally decided to go to school. Let's move on to question number 3. What was the significance of the bulletin board? The bulletin board was really very significant for the citizens during the days of war because they used to receive all the news related to war through that bulletin board only. Even the news of non teaching of French or discontinuation of teaching of French in Alsace and Lorraine, and also making learning German compulsory for them, came through this bulletin board. Question number 4. Why was France blushing and feeling frightened? Franz was blushing because he felt embarrassed while entering the class, as Mr. Hamel was teaching and the class was absolutely quiet. He felt scared because he dreaded Mr. Hamel's reaction. He believed that Mr. Hamel will surely punish him for being late. Moreover, he had also not prepared for the test. Move on to the next question. Why did the writer want to run away and spend the day outdoors? Did he overcome his temptations? This, I think, we have already discussed. It is that he really felt tempted to spend the day outdoor and enjoy the warmth and brightness of nature. He was also attracted towards the sight of chirping birds, and he also felt like watching the drill being performed by the Prussian soldiers. But he really managed to overcome all those temptations and move to school. Moving on to question number 6. How and why was Mr. Hamel dressed differently that day? Mr. Hamel that day was wearing a green coat, frilled shirt, and a little black silk cap that was all embroidered. He used to dress that way on important days like days of inspections and days of prize. That day was also very important for him because it was the day when he was going to deliver his lecture for the last time. So he wanted to show his respect towards his nation. That's why he was dressed up like that. Let's move on to the next question. Why were the old men of the village present in the classroom? The old men of the village were otherwise very irregular to the classroom. But that day, they all were there because they were suffering from a sense of guilt. And they would not like to miss the last opportunity to learn French. They would also like to thank their master for his 40 years of faithful service and also wanted to show respect for their country, which did not seem to be of theirs anymore. So, what was there? That they wanted to attend the last session. Besides, they wanted to show their regard for Mr. Hamel and for their nation as well. Next question is, how was order from Berlin going to make the difference to the lives of the students? The order from Berlin was really going to make a difference to the students because now they will be deprived of an opportunity of learning their mother tongue. It was really a thunderclap for them, and they all wanted to grasp maximum of French that day. Question number 9. How did Fran's attitude towards books change after he heard about the order from Berlin? The news that came to him was like a thunderclap to him. The books, which otherwise seemed to be a burden to him, all of a sudden appeared to be his close friends, his prized possessions, with whom he would never like to part with. Question number 10. What universality of nature does the teacher comment upon? The teacher comments upon the procrastination which is common among all of us. He states that everyone is in habit of putting off the things till tomorrow, thinking that they have enough time at their disposal. But time comes when they don't have, or they don't have an opportunity, or they don't have the time to complete their task. Question number 11. How does M. Hamel hold parents and himself responsible for students neglecting learning? Mr. Hamel's viewpoint was really very fair and unbiased. He not only blamed the parents for the students neglecting their learning, but himself as well. He says that the parents they had different priorities as they used to send their children to work at farms or at mills to have little more money. So they gave more importance to money than to their status. Similarly, Mr. Hamel also used to send children to run errands for him, and at times he used to skip his classes when not in a mood to teach and used to go for fishing instead. So that way, all of them, students themselves, parents, and Mr. Hamel, were responsible for students neglecting their learning. Moving on to question number 12. How does M. Hamel praise French language? Mr. Hamel had a very high opinion about French. He really loved the subject that he teaches. He said that it is the most logical and the most beautiful language in the world. He also urged all of them to guard it as it is key to their present. And he also regarded French language to be their national identity. Let's do question number 13. How is the mother tongue important for enslaved people? Mother tongue is important for all the citizens of a nation because it makes them stay united. It is more important for enslaved people because it is going to make them come to one platform and earn their freedom. Question number 14. Why was France able to learn everything? Learning depends upon the will of the student to learn and the will of the teacher to deliver his best in the best possible way. And on that day, both the students and the teachers, they had this kind of attitude. Mr. Hamel was very patient that day and he tried to convey maximum in the best possible way. Similarly, the learners, they were all set to learn and listen to Mr. Hamel with rapt attention. And result, as expected, was that they were able to learn everything, every bit of thing that was taught by Mr. Hamel that day. Question number 15. I never saw him look so tall. Who is the person mentioned here? The person mentioned here is Mr. Hamel. Next part of the question is, what does the speaker mean by it? Actually, France never had a very good opinion about Mr. Hamel. He used to refer to him as a cranky person. But all of a sudden, he started respecting him when he came to know that he was going to deliver his last lecture. Question number 16. Why did M. Hamel write on the blackboard? What did Mr. Hamel write on the blackboard? That day, when Mr. Hamel was about to leave the class, he got emotional and he was not able to say anything. And so, what he did, he wrote on the board, Vive la France, to show his patriotism. He wanted all of them to uphold the French language in high esteem, and he also urged them to preserve it as their national identity. Question number 17. Why did M. Hamel make a gesture to students to leave? Mr. Hamel was really overwhelmed with emotions, and as a result, his throat got choked and he wasn't able to speak. So, he just made a gesture to students to leave. So, this way, we come to the end of the discussion related to this assignment. While writing the answers, all of you ensure that you strictly adhere to the word limit of 30 to 40 words. And you must include all the value points we have discussed today. We are still left with long answer questions based on this chapter, which we will take up in the next session. In case of any query related to these short answer questions, you can always post them on your WhatsApp group.